we're going to do Chained to a Dark Wall. Yes. And the things that we've been talking about recently, and remember last week we were discussing Peniel, pineal, the word Israel, and we had a little trial here with witnesses and jury and the whole business, and we came up with some interesting things. And I think probably one of the things to me that is so interesting is to find that the religion that we have embraced, that we know as Christianity, is actually a religion that is filled with the rudiments of Egyptian and Greek mythology. It's Egyptian and Greek mythology. And the amazing thing about it is that the people who practice it as Christians deny it. They have no idea. You know, where does this thing come from? See? The New Testament, your Bible, the New Testament, was written entirely in Greek. It's translated out of Greek. Sorry. So if you could read Greek, you would pick up the Bible, and the part of the Bible that you have in English that says the kingdom of heaven is at hand, and if you were to read it, you would find that it says the kingdom of Uranus is at hand. Because that's the word for heaven in Greek. So the whole thing is, most of the Jews of the Hellenistic period, and I'm getting into kind of educational stuff here that Ruth she'll be taking notes and reminding me of. But most of those people were touched by Greek, Egyptian, and Eastern cultures. I saw a fellow on a Trinity Broadcasting the other night on the Christian channel, and they were talking about they want to get religion back in schools. And he said they want the kids to start understanding their Middle Eastern heritage. They don't want to go, too far and touch the guys with, from India and so forth. But you have a wealth of mysticism in your religion. You have a wealth of mysticism in your Bible, and it goes back to its beginnings. And yes, we have a question. I haven't even started. Go ahead. All right, come on, stand up. So
I just want you to explain the Hellenistic.
How can I explain it? I don't even know what it is. You explain it.
You do know what it is.
Go ahead.
Okay. It was a period of time when the Jewish people were very influenced by the Greeks. Okay. Before that, the Jewish people were onto themselves, and then the Greeks came along with their culture and all of the what did they do on when they went to the amphitheaters, okay? And the Jewish people, the elders, were very upset because some of the younger people were being drawn over into the socialization of the Greeks. And so that's called the Hellenistic Period, and it was a complete change in their culture.
Okay. It's an interesting thing because you find the Jews, which are the basis of your Bible, totally influenced by the Egyptians at one point. Then you find them totally influenced by those of Iran and Iraq as they're in bondage to Babylon. And then you find them totally influenced by the Greeks. And then you wonder where the stuff comes from. And then you realize look at page 894. And we covered this last week. Remember when the fellow wrote the letter and he says, well, you're full of baloney that there is no relationship between the word Israel and an Egyptian deity. But look what it says in Acts chapter 7 and verse 22. Now Moses is supposed to have been the one who composed the first 5 books of the Bible. That's what we're told. Well, it says in Acts chapter 7 and verse 22, Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians. He wasn't learned in all the wisdom of the Jews, or the Christians, or the Muslims. He was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians. And so then all of the things that you found as your basis, I always say, oh, we have our Judeo-Christian heritage. You do not. You have no Judeo-Christian heritage. Your heritage is that of the Egyptians and the Greeks and the Hindus and so forth and so on, and that's what it is. But of course, we're reluctant to talk about this thing. The wisdom of Egypt is the wisdom of myth and symbol. There was a great library in Alexandria, Egypt, and it was stacked to the rafters with all of these books about mythology and symbolisms, allegorical references, and proverbs. And the first thing that the Christian church did as a power was send their horsemen to Alexandria, Egypt, and burn it down. Wow. That's the first thing they did. Couldn't deal with it. Yes?
After that point, the Christianity...
Wait a minute. You have... can you get over here? Can you stand up? Well, I mean, you know, how are they going to see you? Go ahead.
Up to that point,
Look over there.
up to that point, Christianity also believed in reincarnation.
Right. Before they burned the place down. Right. Okay. Well, the reason that they did believe in reincarnation is because Jesus taught it. I mean, it was taught in the Bible as a fact. So anyhow, Alexandria was burned to the ground. And all of that stuff came from mystic visionaries. And the stuff that you and I talk about came from mystic visionaries. But let's look at it. See, the point is you carry this book around. And the book is turned into almost like an American religious book. That's what everybody thinks. You know, this is, it's in the American created Protestant churches and so forth and so on as the Word of God. Okay, fine. Let's take a look at it. Go to page 953. Here's the Apostle Paul talking about the Old Testament. Now look at it. Look at it with your own eyes, because I'm telling you this stuff, and I may be telling you a bunch of baloney. I may be making this up. But I may be making this up and telling you stuff. But if you look with your own eyes and you see it, then it's different. We're using the only book that we have really in reference to document this stuff. I don't have anything else other than what we bring you like we were talking about before. But look what it says in Galatians chapter 4:24. Here's the Apostle Paul talking about the Old Testament. And what does he say in Galatians 4:24? Which things are an allegory. We have a school teacher here. Would you stand up, teacher? Miss Judkins, would you stand up? Would you tell everybody what an allegory is?
You put me on the spot, aren't you? An allegory is a story that's told to cover a certain set of circumstances. It doesn't necessarily have to be true. Exactly. It's to give out a theory, cover a theory.
That's fine. It's a symbolic story. An allegory uses places, names of places, people, towns, countries, and so forth to actually set forth a principle that is deeply a principle of consciousness and spirit. And what does he say here? This is the Apostle Paul. This is, you know, I always hear them quote, now abides faith, hope, and love. I never heard them quote that he said that the Old Testament's an allegory. Did you? No, they did. You went to all of those churches. You went to all the Bible studies. Did they ever tell you the Apostle Paul says that the Old Testament's an allegory? They didn't. They missed that. And the reason is that's very challenging. Because once you find out that the Old Testament is allegorical, then you have to set about to look at it and say, what the heck does it mean? It doesn't mean what it says. I mean, if I tell you this word, we use this all the time because it's a good graphic. If I tell you that word and I say, what is a bull? And you tell me it's a big animal, black animal with horns on it, and I say, well, what else is it? And I don't know. Well, it's conversation. You shoot it, you throw it, you're full of it. But that's what it is. And so then we begin to understand how these things are written. Why is it allegorical? You didn't know about anything about the Christians or Jews writing an allegory, but the Greeks and the Egyptians and the ancients did. They wrote allegorically. Let me show you something else. Go to page 502, and this is a quote from God. It's on Psalm 78 for the rest of you. Look at Psalm 78 and look at it with your own eyes and see this thing. What does it quote God per se as saying? Okay. First in verse 20 it says, listen to me, give ear to me, O my people. Look what he says in verse 2 of Psalm 78. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old. He's going to utter dark sayings of old. And this is written about 6,000 years ago. 4,000 years ago anyhow. You know, what's 1,000 years, give or take a couple of thousand. But here's the Bible saying to you that God said, I will utter dark sayings of old. Do you know what dark sayings are? You say them all the time. You speak in dark sayings of old. You don't know where'd you get. Why do you say shot his mouth off? But you do. Why do you say she spilled the beans? It's right on the nose, 3 sheets to the wind. Why do you say all that stuff? And none of it means what it says, but you know exactly what it means because it's a dark saying. And if you go to, somebody comes from a foreign country, and you say the guy shot his mouth off, he's going to visualize somebody taking a gun and blowing the guy's face away. But that's not, you're shaking your head because now you're from a foreign country, right? Stand up. Am I telling the truth?
Yes, you're right.
You hear these things.
I have experience that I took people wrong when they say something to me, you know.
That's right.
When I just came to this country.
And the reason is because you're taking it literally.
That's right.
And you're missing it.
That's correct.
Thank you. Yes, stand up, please.
A few minutes ago, you asked why did they do it in allegory. And I kind of feel that if you write something in allegory, it's more difficult to change the meaning of what the allegorical story was. You can change words, and of course many words and stories have been changed in the Bible, and that's part of religion's big belief in that the things have been changed, but you can't change the meaning of the story as easy as you can the words and whatnot.
You're right on the money. And there's another reason that you use right on the money. Huh? you do know what I meant by that now. But do you think, where do you come from?
El Salvador, Central America.
You come from El Salvador. So here's a lady from El Salvador. And when she hears somebody's going to shoot the bull, she's expecting, somebody's going to shoot a bull. And of course she knows now, all right? All right, what are you going to say?
One day I got into a big fight with a co-worker because she called me ask something, and I really got insulted, because I said, I'm not that. And she said, I don't mean you to be that, but I took it wrong.
Yeah. Well, okay, but, that's a pretty insulting thing. You were pretty well right to get insulted. But the point, you were right. She was right to get insulted. The point being that people that are not exposed to your particular language of dark sayings don't understand them. And this is the point, and she helped us make this point very well. If a person from El Salvador does not understand the dark sayings that we use, okay, we would not understand the dark sayings of the people of El Salvador. And in the same way, let me tell you something, the people of the United States do not understand the dark sayings of the Bible. When they pick up the Bible, it's exactly the same as her coming from El Salvador and having somebody say, let's shoot the bull. And when you read this, and that's what's being said here, you're reading it literally in the same way that she was taking what's said to her literally. And it's not meant to be expressed literally. Let's look at one more. Let's see what wisdom is defined as in this Bible. Let's go to page 541 and look at the book of Proverbs. And what does it say? And this is what's so important for you, because I see sometimes people come in here and they'll sit down and I'm talking, they'll pick up a Bible and start reading it. And I think in my head, I have no idea what they're looking at. You're reading, what's the sense of reading words? They don't mean anything. If you're looking at the Bible right now, you're reading words. I can tell you right now, those words do not mean what you're reading. And you'll walk out of here thinking that you've reached a conclusion about what it says. But that's not what it means. And I'll prove it again. We're at Proverbs chapter 1. This is talking about wisdom. Look what it says in verse 6. Well, look what it says in verse 2. To know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding. That's in verse 2. Look what it says in verse 6. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. See? And that's exactly what she was talking about, and that's exactly what the mere fact that the Bible says this proves that the writers were deeply influenced by the ancient mystics and the deep mysteries. It proves it. There's no doubt about it. There's no question of it in any way, okay? Let me show you another one. Let me show you the Apostle Paul. Go to page 932. And here's the New Testament. And here's the Apostle Paul talking. And this is something that has gone right over the head of religious people. And I'm not being critical of people, but gee whiz, people are flocking to churches and fundamental churches, Christian churches. They want to know. They really want to know. They are legitimately going there seeking a relationship with God. Well, is it wrong because you say to them, hey, you're not paying attention here? These things have a deep meaning personally for you, but you've got to go beyond the meaning. It's just like Vinny was saying a minute ago. There's a reason. There's a reason why truth is water. There's a reason why air means no thought. There's a reason why they use the elements of nature, because, don't you understand, if you call water truth, then water is going to mean truth in every language of the world. 30,000 years ago, today, or 30,000 years from now, there'll always be water, and water will always mean truth in any language. See? And so that's why the Bible has to speak that way. When it says Jesus is walking on the water, what did you do? You've all gone to church and portrayed this guy walking on the water. You cannot walk on water. It doesn't make any difference who you are. You cannot walk on water. And I would know, because Jesus said, the things that I do, you can do. I have tried to walk on water. You can't. It doesn't work. It doesn't mean he was walking on water. It means he comes to you on the truth. It comes to you in that second realm of consciousness. And then when you stand in that same realm of truth, in that second realm, you can walk there and you can stand on that. Look at 1 Corinthians chapter 2, page 932. Look at verse 7. And look at the Apostle Paul. We speak the wisdom of God in a mystery, even the hidden wisdom, which God ordained before the world unto our glory. And if I call the television program we do hidden meanings, people get freaked out. What did he just say? We speak the hidden wisdom. So don't pick up a Bible. Don't pick up the Vedas of Krishna or the sutras of Buddha and read them literally, because you're missing it. You're not reading anything. Those words mean nothing. You have to go beyond them and understand them spiritually. We speak in a mystery, okay? But I'll tell you something. That which is the truth can never be seen by your eyes. That which is the truth can never be heard in your ears. That which is the truth can never enter as an idea in your mind. That which is the truth is written over here beyond the board. That which is the truth is written in nirvana. Or as it says, you see where you are? Right here? 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 7. Go to verse 9. As it is written, eye has not seen, nor has ear heard, neither has entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for them that love him. You can't see this with your eyes. You can't hear this with your ears. You can't think this with your mind. It is set in a place above and beyond your ears, your eyes, and your mind. It is in nothingness. And that's what's being said. See, the mystics that I'm referring to brought this truth and encompassed the physical and the spiritual as an experience. There is a law called the law of physics. And the law of physics, Albert, is that these things are not physical, they just are. In ancient religions, we hear the divine beings. The ancient definitions of being is that which is. It just is. That's physics. It is. You can't get any deeper into it than that. It's not subject to birth. It's not subject to generation. It's not subject to decay. It just is. Just like your thoughts and your desires. You could sit here. Some people are looking for proof of the existence of some kind of God or some kind of existence beyond your body. Your thoughts, your dreams, your desires, they don't exist, but they are. There's no human being on the face of the earth that can find your thoughts. There's no human being that can find your desires or your dreams. Where are they? They're not in here. Your brain is in here. But they exist. Where are they? How can you tap into them like that? It is the proof of the existence of the non-entity of your physical being as a spirit being. That part that goes on forever is your dreams, your desires, your loves, your fears, your hopes, which are not in here. They can be transmitted. They manifest through here. Just like a TV picture. This room is loaded with television pictures right now. All kinds of different stuff is happening right in this room. There are buffaloes running through here. There are boxers boxing. There are wrestlers slam dunking people. There are football players tackling people. There are people shooting people in this room. All of this stuff is going on in this room right while you're sitting here, and you can't see any of it. You can't feel any of it. You can't hear any of it. Yet it's all over you. It's on top of your head. It's under your feet. It's in your pocket. All through you are these things happening. And all you have to do is take a television set, plug it in, and there it is. You can see a picture of it. And don't forget, the television set it's not coming through the wire. They put a little antenna on it. It's coming out of the ether. It's coming right here. You're surrounded by all of these things going on here that you can't see, you can't hear, you can't feel, but exist. And this is the beautiful part of knowing that, remember something. Your thoughts, your dreams, your desires, your personality are part of the etheric body. They're not in here. And they never die. They never stop. They never cease. And you're simply inside of the body that you're in, and you are getting a picture. This etheric part of you is being transmitted a picture that is photographed of me by your eyes. You have two cameras. They are photographing a picture, and they are sending it to you. But where are you? You're not your eyes. They're sending you this picture. And you're able then, through the brain, it unscrambles the electronic signals, and you're able to see this thing that looks like me. But you're not seeing me. You're seeing a picture. See? And so when you attach yourself too firmly to the body, we all make a serious mistake, because these beautiful things that don't exist, that cannot be touched by man, are endless and forever. What we destroyed in Alexandria, Egypt, was the understanding that we inherit a world of external experiences, but we are in a world of inner understanding. And that's what Jesus meant. Look at it again. We've done this passage 1,000 times, and I still think many of you don't understand this. And you'll never, this is one of the most important statements that Jesus Christ made, and I have never, ever in all of my life heard a Christian express it. Never heard one say it. Never heard him say, look what he says. And this is the important. What do you use a key for? You use a key to unlock a door. And do you know what? You remember I was telling you about those crop circles? Do you know what one of the things diagrammed by whatever this being was in this wheat? Do you know what it was? A key. Right. And do you know what was a little further off to the right? An eye. In the middle of the wheat. The key is the eye. Okay? And look what Jesus, Jehoshua the Christ, made a statement about what is the key. And you know, the people that echoed this statement, the Joel Goldsmiths of the world, the Hilton Hotimas of the world, the Emmett Foxes of the world, the Helena Blavatskys of the world, these people that echoed these things were regarded as by your friends and your colleagues and your moms and dads as a cult people to stay away from. But they only echoed that which the Jesus that you have claimed and they claim to follow said. Look at page 847. Look Luke chapter 11. And look at verse 52. And what does Jesus say? He says, woe unto you lawyers. You know who lawyers are? Now you know who lawyers are. I'm not talking about that. Lawyers in the scriptures are those people who interpret the law, the Bible, the scriptures. And look what he says, woe unto you lawyers. You have taken away the key of knowledge. You entered not in yourselves. And them that were entering in, you hindered. What does he just say? The key of knowledge, the key of understanding is used by entering into yourself. Don't you have time to do that? You know what? Most people are afraid to do that because, tell me the truth, your churches and your religions have told you that's dangerous. There is something in here you could get involved in if you enter into yourself. So they said you can open your mind to demons and devils if you enter into yourself. The only thing I would say is flush that in the toilet, open the Bible, and read of Jesus who said, hey, the kingdom of God is in yourself. Seek within yourself and find the kingdom. But there's a message. They don't want you to look inside of yourself because you know what you're going to find? God. And when you know that God is in you, what do you need them for? And then the grip is gone. They've lost their grip on you. See, as you progress along this pathway of initiation, initiation means beginning meditation. You pass to greater levels of insight into your own nature. You begin to find, is it hot in here? Huh? Dave, somebody turn the air conditioner on. You become more, you know, I'm feeling the same thing. I was up here waving too. You become more concerned about nature. Don't sit here and if you're too hot or too cold, do something about it. You say, this is the point. Everybody says, this is what you get. You get in church. This is what you ever done in church. You sit and you don't move.
You're afraid to.
You're afraid to. Get up. Do something about it. Turn the air conditioner on. Assert yourself. Search yourself. Because you know why? And that's why I like to be cold in here. Because as soon as it gets hot in here, you start melting away. Did you ever see an icicle? It's pointed like a dagger. It is hard. It glistens. But as soon as it gets hot, it starts to drip. And then all of a sudden, it's not hard anymore. And you can't stick anybody with it anymore. And it just flops into... And that's what you were starting to melt. Is it on? Did you get it on? Turn it down to 0, Mike, and we'll get it going here. Right. Fed up with this. The unknown writer is going to write. Let me show. Do you ever come in here? When you come in here, you come into meditation. And we turn the lights down and we put the sounds on and we put the music on, right? I'm going to read you a description of that. But better than that, why don't you read it? Go to page 779. And here is a description of meditation. It is a description of what happens to you when you close your eyes and you sit alone and the music or the sound starts to play. Look at Matthew chapter 4 and look at verse 16. And think of yourself on a Tuesday night or a Thursday night sitting here with the sounds of Kitaro or whatever. The people which sat in darkness saw great light. And to them which sat in the region of the shadow of death, that means that lower flesh, light is sprung up. This is mysticism. That's what they're talking about. This beauty. And it's all of yours and it's a personal love. That's the description. I want to read you a description of all of this that was done in a play written by Plato. And the name of the play was The Allegory of the Cave. And I've kind of adapted it to what he was talking about, chained to a dark wall. And he described you and me as people chained to a dark wall in a subterranean cave. You all got chains and you're chained to the wall. But there is just a sliver of a crack above that cave, and a tiny bit of light enters in from above. This is an allegory. This is written by Plato, an allegory written by Plato. You're chained to a dark wall in this cave, and there's just a slimmer of light that flickers in from above. And you know what he's talking about? He's talking about being in bondage to all of the things, the insanities of the regulations and the rules and religions and governments and politicians and all of this stuff. And you can't do anything about it. There's nothing you can do. And what happened? You missed everything, and you get older and older, and you feel as you get older, I've missed. I don't know what's this for? And then before you have an opportunity to find out, you die. See? But from that light above, you start to observe shadows flittering about the wall. And the shadows actually come from the movements of the upper world. And you look at these shadows and you don't know. And other people that are chained to this wall with us begin to explain what the shadows are. The only thing is they don't know of the reality of that upper world. So they give you an explanation of what those shadows are that you see flitting on the wall. Okay? We're giving their assumptions, we're given their opinions. For those fleeting moments that we are aware of, something happened. In other words, something happens within you. Oh, and somebody is there to tell you what this is. Oh, it's just your mind. You better get and read the Bible or say your prayers. Stay away from that stuff. Don't go near those people and all of that stuff. This is what this is. Because what they say, listen, just stay chained to this dark wall with us. Because the promise is, after we die in our chains, then we'll know everything. And so most of us are chained to the wall, and they find us lying on the floor in all the crap with one arm chained to the wall, and we never found anything. But if we escape from that lower place, we can make our way to the reality of the upper world and begin to experience the beauty of the upper world. And while we're experiencing the beauty of the upper world, the teachers who are chained to the dark dungeon below will still be explaining all of their opinions about what is reality, and they'll never know of the freedom, of the green, of the color, of the love, of the expression of light, of the encounter with God that is in the upper world. Plato wrote that. And this is what he is saying. Your lower world is your lower mind. And you listen to everybody, religious teachers and psychiatrists and psychologists. And you listen to all of these people and you pay them to tell you stuff that they don't know anything about because they've never been above the subterranean cave of the dark dungeon. They've never seen the light that's up there. And so everything they've explained to you has been a fraud. And you lived it, and you loved it, and you experienced it, and then you died, and you missed it. Look at page 939. I'll be out of here in just a minute. I just wanted to show you. The Apostle Paul says in this one here, and I want to show you something about that retreats back to what we did last week. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 12, for now we see through a glass darkly. I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm not selling you anything. You don't join this church. This church has no members. Nobody tells you how much you give or you don't give. Ever. Nobody asks you if you don't come back where you were. You go, you come, you do what you want to do. All I am suggesting to you is there may be some validity in these things, that there is something special inside of you. And if you touch it, you can explode that pine cone and set yourself to understanding what life and nature and you are all about. 1 Corinthians 13:12, for now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know even as I am known. And how are you known? You are known in mind. But I want you to look at something. What did he say you're going to see? Face to face. Right? You want to see face to face? 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 Good. Turn to page 28. Go to Genesis chapter 32. Page 28. Genesis chapter 32. Here's a guy that saw face to face. Genesis chapter 32. Look at verse 30. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face. You know what's in the center of your brain? The pineal. You want to use it? You don't want to use it? It's like saying you don't want to use your... I was going to say something, but I won't. It's your body. It's a physical part of your body, and you can use it if you want to. If you want to sulk your way through this life and drop dead and not use it, that's your business. Because you use this in private. It's nobody else's business. It's none of my business. It's none of anybody else's business. You use it if you want to. But I just showed you. What did this guy say? I've seen it face to face. What did Paul say? You can see it face to face. What's he call the name of the place? Peniel. For I've seen it face to face. And there it is. So... oh, how did I do it? I just would wrap this up by telling you how important is it to understand this stuff. See, you don't even have to give in that you believe me. You can sneak off to some library somewhere. You don't want to go to that one where Sarah is, because she'll may say, gosh, I saw so-and-so. You go to some foreign and say, I think this guy's a nut. But let me look. Let me look up the pine cone. Let me look up the pineal. Let me look up all of this stuff. Let me look up Plato and Pluto and Minnie and Mickey. And let me look up all of this stuff and find out what the hell is he talking about. See, you don't ever have to come back here again. I'll be the one that'll go into spasms over that, but you don't have to worry about that. You can stay in the library forever. Nobody will ever know. But you know what? If you look, you will find it, because it's there. And I'll tell you something, and whenever you leave here and say that guy's a nut or whatever he is, remember something, and you'll have to say this in your heart, that everything I have ever said to you, I have documented it. I've never said, I think so, or this is the way. I've documented it in the Bible or by the scholars, okay? Look, I'm going to show you why. You got to understand symbols, and you've got to understand that you're not told the truth. According to the outward appearances, and according to what you have been taught, the sun rises in the east, and the sun sets in the west. You call it sunrise, sunset, blah, blah, blah. Don't you call it that? Do you know that the sun rises in the east, and the sun sets in the west? Do you know that the sun rises in the east, and the sun sets in the west? Do you know that the sun rises in the east, and the sun sets in the west? But you know that the sun doesn't rise at all, and you know that the sun doesn't set at all, because you know it's an illusion, and it's the earth that's moving, don't you, Albert? But all of your life you believe the sun rose and the sun set, and it doesn't move an inch. You are. Isn't it nice to find out the truth? As the Apostle Paul said in Hebrews 6:1, let us go on to perfection and find the truth. The wisdom that is hidden in our Bible has its beginning in the myths of Egypt, Greece, and the East. And he who you call Jesus said this word, therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. And he said all that is required for you to see and to hear and to understand is seek the single eye, explode the pine cone, and the energy of the solar plexus of your life, and allow yourself to become one with the eternal, in nirvana, in nature, in God, in the universe, in yourself. It is there. Thank you, and we'll see you. John will come on, and we'll go from there.